Hello and welcome to the circuit Ricardo Tormo on the outskirts of Valencia, home of the final round of the FIM CEV Repsol International Championships for 2014. Here you can see the circuit, an 18-lap Moto3 race coming up first, two of those to bring you here today, as well as the final Superbike race and also Moto2. Steve Day here alongside Dylan Gray. Dylan, a very busy schedule for you. I'm delighted to have you up here in the commentary box after your MotoGP season came to an end just last week.
Yeah, but certainly a fitting end to the season. I think we have a great championship here. We're going to have some four fantastic races with the Moto3. We have two of those races today and the Moto2 as well as the Superbike class. And I'm pleased to say, especially for the fans that we see just coming in through the gates, we have an absolutely fantastic morning with sunshine. It's nowhere near as chilly as it was these last couple of days, so an absolutely great day to go racing.
Yes, it was quite windy yesterday in qualifying. Temperatures a lot cooler than they are today, so we have blue skies and we're looking forward to some great action. As I mentioned, two Moto3 races coming up for you. First of all, an 18-lapper, Fabio Quartararo, of course, already crowned the Moto3 champion. But there is quite a lot of interest on the grid, a lot of names from the GP paddock having a go here in this final round.
Yeah, certainly. We've got the likes of John McPhee, Alexi Masbu, Jasper Iwema as well, Jorge Navarro. He's the man who sits second on the grid. These are all guys that have been in the championship full-time. Well, Navarro not quite full-time, but towards the end of the season, certainly there. So it's going to be so interesting to see how these top guys in this Moto3 class here in the CEV Repsol stack up against the guys that have been, you know, almost permanent front runners, even race winners with Alexi Masbu in the World Championship.
In particular, Fabio Quartararo, who there's been so much interest in. Of course, he won the CEV Repsol Championship for the second time. He's moving to the GP paddock next year. It's almost an ideal opportunity and preparation for him, isn't it?
Do you know what? Ideal preparation for him. He's only 15 years old. He now has no pressure whatsoever on him today. The pressure sits firmly with the guys that are in the World Championship because they know they are on Honda machinery. That's the nice thing. Those guys that are racing today, McPhee, Masbu, they're on the Honda. They're pretty much on the same bike that Quartararo's on. And we know Quartararo is stepping up. The rules changed ever so slightly for the World Championship. And here we have the Frenchman.
Yeah, these are a few highlights back at the last round for the FIM CEV Repsol Championships from Portimao. And with Quartararo already crowned champion, he was keen to continue his dominance here as he shot to the front early on. Ahead of an intriguing battle for second place. A number of riders going down. There was Nicolo Belega and Australian Remy Gardner that were soon fighting at the front end. Rodrigo unfortunately went down. We also had Spain's Marcos Ramirez and Gabriel Rodrigo fighting for the podiums. Further back there we see Rodrigo and Quartararo's win here as well. He actually earned 3 years Repsol fuel, which was quite interesting.
Right.
But it was in the end, as we see a number of riders going down. Quartararo, a bit of action going on. You see, this was the battle for second place. Quartararo had already cleaned off.
That's, you know, here we see Portimao. This is exactly the kind of thing Quartararo has been doing all season long. But it was Gabriel Rodrigo up there fighting for the podium, as you say, but it was Quartararo who won that in the end. We actually didn't have second place Jorge Navarro. You might be missing him from those highlights. He actually didn't take part in the race because he couldn't get back from Malaysia soon enough at the time. And there we just saw Aleix Espargaro. He obviously is the team boss of the RBA team there. But here we say, just look what a margin. And this is something that certainly a lot of the team are going to be scared of today.
Yeah, a number of riders going down. A little earlier we saw Van Haren, the Dutch rider, going down, and Portimao with its undulations as well and blind entry points. It was a really tricky circuit for most of these guys to get themselves involved in. Quartararo had already won the championship at this point. You can see there he cruised across the line to take the checkered flag.
I think one of the revelations was the number 46 bike of Nicolo Belega. He is part of that Valentino Rossi, the VR46 riders. academy, and it was absolutely fantastic to see the Italian take a second place. It was Marcos Ramirez who then who finished off third on the podium.
Yes, so today, here we are then in Valencia for the final round of the CEV Repsol International, and as Dylan just mentioned earlier, a chance for him to relax as we look down onto the grid.
Yeah, exactly. Well, relax, yes, but I'm sure relaxing in the kind of racing frame of mind. He's still going to want to go out with a bang. We know that he's going to be stepping up to the World Championship next year, and he's going to want to do so with a win. He's only been beaten twice, and both those times he still finished in second place. The only two people to beat him have been the one female entry, Maria Herrera. She beat him in a race in Jerez, one of the first races of the season, as well as Jorge Navarro. But of course, Navarro then stepped up to the Mark VDS Racing team in the World Championship. But it's nice to see that we've got Navarro back in the championship here, and he's already on that Estrella Galicia Honda. So beforehand he was racing on the Iota bike. But I think first of all we're now going to go down to Gabriel Rodrigo, the pole position man.
Gaby Rodrigo, fantástica la pole conseguida ayer aquí en Valencia. Tras tu experiencia del pasado fin de semana en el Mundial, ¿cómo planteas esta carrera?
Bueno, el equipo hizo muy buen trabajo ayer y para encontrar un buen setting con el viento que hacía, y me sentí muy cómodo, conseguí lograr un buen tiempo, y ahora toca ya ponerse en modo lucha porque seguro que será una carrera en grupo. Y bueno, a despedirnos bien del CEV, ¿no? Mis dos últimas carreras aquí, espero disfrutarlas y dar espectáculos.
Well, that was Gabriel Rodrigo saying that they struggled a little bit with the wind yesterday to find the right settings, and but that now he's got to get his race head on, because he said he's absolutely certain it's going to be quite a tight group, that is going to be pretty bunched up. But he does say he wants to start this season, wants to end this season on a high.
Yeah, Gabriel Rodrigo currently 6th in the championship, and he's still got an opportunity to finish a lot higher than that. So finishing 3rd in the championship, much better than 6th.
Oh, absolutely, and I think not just that, but also for your pride. Now we're with Jorge Navarro.
Con la Honda con la que el próximo año competirás en el Mundial con el Team Estrella Galicia. Gran ritmo en el warm-up. ¿Qué tal tu adaptación a esta nueva moto?
Bueno, me encuentro muy bien con la moto. Hemos trabajado muy bien durante todo el fin de semana y creo que estamos preparados para la carrera. Será una carrera complicada por el grupo, pero bueno, lo daremos todo y al final veremos qué pasa.
Gracias, suerte.
Okay, and that was Jorge Navarro telling us that getting used to his new bike was not exactly the easiest challenge. They had to work very, very hard throughout the weekend just to change. He has been on a Calix KTM. Now he's for the first time on a Honda, and he also believes that the race is certainly going to be a bit of a bunched up group.
Yeah, he's still got his Mark VDS leathers on there as well, I see.
Yes, yeah. He will be changing those tomorrow. I do believe that that's part of a sponsorship deal rather than just not having a new set of leathers.
Of course, Fabio Quartararo 3rd on the grid for this race.
Yes, 3rd on the grid, obviously because of the qualifying system. But first of all, let's go down to the Frenchman and see what he has to say.
Fabio Quartararo, 3e à la grille. Le niveau de championnat est très haut, mais aujourd'hui, on arrive au niveau de maximum.
Voilà, j'ai été champion au Portugal, mais bon, ça change rien. Il faut que j'arrive à faire la meilleure course possible. Je vais essayer de faire le maximum, essayer de me battre avec, je pense que ça va être une course en groupe de 4 ou 5, et on va voir, je vais faire le maximum pour gagner.
Okay, and that was Fabio Quartararo telling us there in French that, of course, he's already a champion, but he still wants to do the most work possible to get a good result at the end here. And he said, in terms of the race, he expects a group of around 5 to 6 riders up at the front. And of course, people might be looking at the times, wondering why is he qualified? Why is he qualified in 3rd place? Well, you have Group A and Group B qualifying, so it's not necessarily just the times. It is ordered a little bit according to where you are in your group, and he was 2nd in the Group A, which is why he's ultimately 3rd on the grid. Slightly complicated system, but ultimately it's only down to 30th place, and afterwards then it is ordered by the times.
Yeah, 2 races then coming up for the Moto3 category, and that's something very different as well for a lot of these riders to take on board. Bearing in mind, certainly for even the GP riders that come here with experience, they're used to just a 1 race a day. 2 18-lap races of Valencia. It's not easy going.
No, it's quite physical. You've only got the one real straight here. Apart from that, you're always hanging off the side of the bike. So You think the GP guys, the Moto3 class, would generally do, I believe it was 26 or 27 laps that they would have done here. So yes, two 18-lap races is of course an awful lot more than we're generally used to, and it is going to test these guys' fitness. I think one good thing is, we've spoken about it, it's not very warm. You know, we've got the sunshine out, it's pleasant, but at least it's not going to be baking hot. They're not going to be struggling with the fitness from that side of things, but it's certainly going to be testing these youngsters to the max. And
certainly helpful for the GP riders having been here just last week as well.
Oh, definitely. I mean, they will know bike setup. However, it's not as clear cut that they're just here with the same bike, same setup, same practice. As you know, Steve, we spoke with John McPhee earlier. He said this weekend was almost more of a test for him, and now come race day, now they reverted back a little bit to what they had during the race weekend. The rest of the days have generally been more about testing new parts on the bike, because they didn't go to the other pre-season test, which has already started happening in Jerez with some other Moto3 riders. And good to see that we got a good crowd here, good turnout. I think yesterday we were a little bit worried because it was very, very windy and very, very cold.
Yeah, the sun has come out and there's a lot of bikes parked up in the paddock just outside behind us here in the commentary box. But this is the starting grid then for the FIM CEV Repsol Moto3 race. Rodrigo starts from pole position ahead of Navarro and Quartararo. McPhee will head row 2 up ahead of Albert Arenas there and Marcos Ramirez. And then on row 3 you have Marini, Tatsuki Suzuki and Nicolo Bulega. Further back then on row 4 you'll have Ben Snyder, Masbu and Herrera. So you can see already, Dylan, that there are a number of the GP riders that perhaps haven't qualified quite as well as they would have expected.
No, and I think a lot of that would have been down to them trying new parts. Let's just have a look at row 5 here. We have Jasper Immermer, one of the Moto3 guys. Tony Arbolini, his debut in Moto3, doing very well. Hiroki Ono in 15th place. Then we have Raul Fernandez from the Copa España. Then we have local boy David Sanchez in 16th, and Takuma Kuminime from the Asia Talent Cup.
Yeah, that's Remy Gardner there on row 7. Probably not too happy with that. Then Saiz next to him and Pizzoli. Further back there you can also see Bradley Ray and Wayne Ryan, 2 riders that will be looking to get themselves well inside the top 10. Struggled yesterday with the wind in qualifying.
Yep, and in row 10 we have the we have Cresson, then we have Senna Yamada next to another Asia Talent Cup rider, Norodin. Row 11 we see the German Max Enderlein, number 32 Canet, 33 Polanco, number 15 another Spaniard Perez, 35 Groppi, also part of the SIC 58 team, with 36th place with Nunez.
So Fabio Quartararo, the CEV Repsol champion, will be lining up 3rd on the grid, number 20 on the Estrella Galicia Honda. Not finished off the top 2 steps all year, and he will have his eyes firmly focused on trying to pick up another victory here up ahead of some pretty tasty opponents, not least the guys that are ahead of him as well, who rode very well yesterday in qualifying, Navarro and Rodrigo. Would it be fair to say that, forgetting the GP paddock as well, some of these guys, between Fabio Quartararo and Jorge Navarro, bearing in mind they're going to be teammates next year as well, they're both really going to want to get the better of each other here.
Oh, definitely. This is now a straight shootout between teammates that are racing in a team for the first time this weekend. Although, going on the times, it's Gabriel Rodrigo. He is the man to beat. We can just see him on screen there, visor down. Now he's got his race face on. Like he says, qualifying's done. We changed the setup for the wind in QP. Today is a completely different ball game. And what we've seen with Quartararo, these guys are going to want to break him, because if he breaks away, as he does, as he's done in so many other races, that's when he's going to make it tough. And at this short track, you'd imagine, especially the likes of Rodrigo, Jorge Navarro, even if John McPhee can get in there, they're going to have to slow him down.
They are indeed, and Gabriel Rodrigo, who sits on pole position, as we mentioned earlier on the RBA Racing KTM, 6th place in the championship. He's had a slightly frustrating season because he's led so many of the races, but yet to get that vital win because of Fabio Quartararo's dominance.
Yeah, well, Quartararo is essentially just stalking. He's sort of taking a little bit of a leaf out of the ex-Rossi riding book, you could argue, and just stalking those guys, taking their race pace, then getting ahead, and then just managing that gap. So you've got to think, you've probably got to try and probably got to try and rough them up, and this would be a good place as they just come around turn 2. I think one of the good passing opportunities at this Valencia track, where we don't often see many places where you can necessarily pass.
No, you would say that turns 1 and 2 are probably the most likely overtaking areas. In Moto3, sometimes, of course, with these trains of bikes that you see together, there will be a few other opportunities, but there's a lot of corners here where you just have to try and stay on the back of anyone that's ahead of you, try and get the toe as best possible. There you can see the championship standings. Quartararo already champion. There's 50 points available here today. He has a 77-point lead. Second and third could still change depending on how Ono gets on today.
Yeah, and of course worth mentioning Migno no longer riding because he made that switch up to the Mahindra team in the World Championship. So of course he is still 4th in the standings, but he's not taking part in the race this weekend. So if you can't see him on the screen, he's certainly not crashed out. It's just that he's not taking part. So he's no longer in the fight with Navarro and Ono. And of course Ono maybe not the best qualifying to a fight for that, but this is Moto3, so keep an eye out for the number 50 bike if he can make his way up through the field.
Yes, myself and Dylan had the opportunity to watch from various points of the circuit yesterday, and the camera angles that you see here don't necessarily give away exactly what is out there on circuit. There are some rather tricky points. Turn 4 in particular is one to look out for. A lot of riders going down yesterday. It's the first right-hander on the circuit, and it follows 5 consecutive left-handers. So that could be rather hectic on this opening lap as Gabriel Rodrigo lines up on pole.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to have to take it a little bit easy into there because their tyre will be cool. It won't be up to temperature. They need about 2 or 3 laps before they can really carry the kind of pace through there. Also, you don't want to be going too side by side in there because, as we've seen, Steve, it does drop off a little bit the wider your line. But here we go. First race of the day.
18-lap race, and we've got a problem already there further back for number 58. That's Tony Arbolino, and that is the pre-Moto2 Italian champion, and a lot of hopes pinned on him for this first race, and that's disastrous.
You know, he came up from 125cc, like you said, he won that championship. This was his first weekend on Moto3, and to do what he did, where he qualified on row 5 in this big group, was absolutely fantastic. So a real shame that he has to start from pit lane.
Lucky for him, he'll get another shot. There's another race coming up later, but we're ready to go racing here in Moto3 in Valencia. That looked like a rather edgy start there for Gabriel Rodrigo, number 19, as we go and head down towards turn 1, and already Jorge Navarro getting his elbows out. Someone's been pushed wide as well. Fabio Quartararo looking for the inside line, but he has to settle for 3rd place. It is Rodrigo that started on pole, but he's gone wide there. That will allow Jorge Navarro to take the lead into turn 2.
Yeah, as we see here, one of the Calvo bikes has made a very good start up the front, and we already have our
we've got
first
a rider
faller
down, and that may have been, you know, one of the leading pack, and it looked like it was an Australia Galicia bike from here. Not 100% sure. Let's have a look here as to what's going on. Wow,
we have someone down on track.
We've got a rider still down on the circuit here. We may, well, let's see if we can get a replay of this. Is one of the riders in 3rd or 4th? I've got a feeling it might. I didn't see Fabio Quartararo just go through the time screen there. We'll get a better glimpse at the front in a moment. But can you see another Australia Galicia machine? I think that we may have lost the actual champion.
Yes. That very much could have been.
Oh, and there's a massive high side there as well. So riders going down here on this opening lap in Valencia. Let's see, it's 3 riders. It's a car parking lot. In fact, there's 4 or 5 bikes down there.
A lot of bikes
all started from a monster high side there, and everybody else just parking it up into them. So, well, you survived this opening lap, and you've got a good chance.
That was one of the IO bikes there. Sorry to cut across there, Steve. That was one of the IO bikes.
I apologise to Fabio Quartararo fans because he is still there. Oh my word, I say he's still there, but he's gone horrifically wide down into the final turn as they make their way onto the start-finish straight. It's absolute mayhem at the end of this first lap.
Cold tyre syndrome. These guys are too keen. They're already pushing on too much. And as we now come across the timing screens, we should be able to see who is missing from that grid.
Oh, nice move there from Nicolo Banega, who moves up the inside of John McPhee, who's got off to a decent start. McPhee sporting the number 68, remember, not the 17 that he runs in MotoGP. So Navarro it is that has the lead, and then it's Banega, McPhee, Rodrigo. Someone was running wide further back. Quartararo's up there. Alexis Masbou is up inside the top 6 now also.
Well, yeah, Alexis Masbou obviously did not have the best of qualifying, so it's very, very important for the Frenchman to be heading up through the grid. And here we have yet another faller This looks low side, but good to see he did not take anyone out at the time. Also good to see that he's walking away from there. And here we've seen Quartararo. He's just given the signal, stick behind me. He's just telling Bulega, stick behind me. I will give you the tow. He's obviously got the pace, but they know they need to make their way up to Navarro. Now, is this another crash or is this the clean-up from the one before?
I think it may still be the clean-up. John McPhee has run wide and he's lost quite a bit of ground here, but Alex Masbou is now up into the top 3. So good work here from Alex Masbou. Sorry, he's just in 4th place. That is Jorge Navarro that leads ahead of his teammate there, Fabio Quartararo. There is Masbou, who's going ahead of Bulega.
You know what? Masbou is an out-and-out racer. We've seen this in the World Championship so many times. You know, he loves that race. He loves the chase. And as we say, that we got Gabriel Rodrigo up the inside of Bulega. Was he going to make it on Masbou? No, just not. Couldn't go quite deep enough on the brakes.
Yeah, slightly off camber down into turn 13. A tricky one to get right, but across the line, it is Jorge Navarro that has an outstanding lead here ahead of his teammate Quartararo. Masbou goes across the line in 3rd, ahead of Rodrigo and Bulega. Bulega number 46. Number 68 then, McPhee in 6th, and Tatsuki Suzuki in number 38. We've got another big crash
here.
Oh, that is a monster high side, and that looks pretty nasty there.
Yeah.
And a number of other riders getting involved.
But doing so well to try and avoid that.
Yeah, that was that was always horrible to see. That's that uphill section just in turn 12.
Yeah, going up into turn 13. That very fast change of direction there. As we say, they're only on lap 3 now. Now is when those tyres are going to be reaching temperature.
We've got red flags. Yes, lap 3 of 18 and red flags out. And I can't say I'm that surprised to see it. Jorge Navarro shaking his head. Of course, he did have a rather large lead at that point, but understandably, the red flags come out.
Safety first. You know, you can't. You know, obviously, you know this from your years of experience. Even you yourself racing, Steve. It's, you know, you can't take these guys' safety lightly, because it is, you know, it is an amazing sport. It's a fun sport, but it can be extremely dangerous as well. So look, let's just hope that the riders involved in that crash are okay. I'm just looking out of the window, so we have the medical team with them. And with any luck, we will be able to restart this race relatively soon.
Yes, well, Jorge Navarro shaking his head there. He did get himself off to a decent lead, but as Dylan mentioned here, rider safety absolutely paramount, and there's a few people down in pit lane just wondering how things are going. A real high rate of attrition on that opening few laps here.
Yeah, and I've just seen, I think one of the riders that had crashed out before was the man in fight for 3rd place, Hiroki Ono, because he had disappeared from the timing screens. And obviously one of the big questions is from some of our crashes. Obviously we had some bigger ones, we had some smaller crashes. Is anyone going to be able to get that bike fixed? If it's just a damaged fairing job, if the rider's okay, will they be able to get onto that grid or not? So a lot of teams working frantically, and you know, also the teams getting the bikes out of the gravel traps. How fast can they get them back?
Yeah, and it's not just that. People like Tony Arbolino, who of course got wheeled off at the start there, may well be in with a chance of getting back out onto circuit and actually getting a chance to start this race.
No, absolutely right with Tony Arbolino, because he was running in 37th place naturally, and we just saw Luca Marini, Valentino Rossi's half-brother. He just pitted in there, so he was not one of the riders affected by the conditions. And of course, these pauses never nice for anyone, for the riders, for the fans. But obviously it is just done for safety reasons.
Absolutely. So we will be getting a full restart here, obviously shortened distance, but just as soon as we have any news for you in terms of when we will get restarted, of course we will keep you posted. But
well, yeah, from our commentary box we can actually see turn number 13, so we can see that the ambulance has now turned up, and this is just losing the back there, and that to me looks like. That to me looked like the number 2 bike of Remy Gardner. I could be wrong, but that looked like one of the Calvo machines.
One of the big problems certainly is you go up through turn 12 and then make your way onto turn 13 there, especially with the Moto3 bikes, of course, all in each other's slipstream. If you are to go down, there's a train of bikes following, and it can sometimes lead to situations like this. So obviously we hope that all riders concerned are okay. They're just getting all of the officials down onto the grid ready for the restart here. But if you've just joined us here, it is the final round of the CEV Repsol International Championships for 2014. Just moving on to something that will be coming up a bit later on. Of course, we mentioned that in this championship, Fabio Quartararo already has things wrapped up, and we also have a similar situation in Moto2, where Jesko Raffin is already champion. But in Superbike, you're not going to want to miss that one, folks. There's 4 riders that could potentially win the championship, and there's only 1 race left.
Yeah, of course. It's we have Kenny Noyes, we have Ivan Silva involved there, Santiago Barrero and Carmelo Morales. I mean, those 4, anyone could take that one. That is going to be an absolutely fascinating race. So no, make sure you join us. That's the race just following Moto3. And one of the shots we just saw early on, there was a box. People familiar with the motorcycle racing world would have seen the colours of Marco Simoncelli and the face of Marco Simoncelli on the board. That's because his father Paolo has started his own team, and that's obviously one of the riders we were talking about earlier, the number 58 machine with Tony Arbolini, of course with his teammate as well, Anthony Groppi. So he's brought them in. They're essentially on the KTM machines that the Grassini outfit was running in the World Championship up until now. They essentially left pretty much the team and the bikes and just changed the fairing, changed the look. But this is something which they'll be looking to do and bring into the CEV full time.
There you can see on the right of your screen, of course, Randy Mamola, whose son will be racing a little later in the Moto2 category.
Yeah, and here we have Remy Gardner right next to him. I think that may have been him involved in the crash. He seems to be explaining something. Actually, no, I do apologise, because I think his bike is there in the background. Although looking at his leathers, they did look slightly scuffed. It's very, very tough to tell from the replays. Do apologise, but the good thing is to see Remy's out there. He's okay. He's certainly not one of the fallers. And we can tell the ambulance is now leaving turn 13. They've cleaned up the track there. But it's just, it's one of those situations, isn't it? You've just got to be patient.
Yeah, you have, and you have to let the guys do their work. Of course, the marshals, the medics here at, not just CEV, but across the world and in national championships always work incredibly hard, and so we just want to make sure that everyone's okay, and then we'll be able to get the bikes back out on the grid ready for the restart. And so, of course, for the riders that were leading, such as Jorge Navarro, who'd worked so hard to build that lead, he has to forget about that now and get on with business.
He does, because as we saw, Quartararo got caught up early on in that mess, and I don't think that the pace from Navarro necessarily reflects his dominance over the field. I think he is looking very, very fast. He made the best of a bad situation in that moment, but I think if Quartararo gets a good start with the likes of Gabriel Rodrigo McPhee, we saw Alexei Masbou for me was the rider to be looking out for in that race, considering how he made his way up through the pack.
Just to take your mind back to the opening lap on turns 3, we saw a rider going down. I can confirm, I mentioned at the time it may have been Fabio Quartararo. Of course it wasn't. It was in fact Alberto Rinas that went down. Another rider who would have probably expected himself to have a couple of decent results here today.
Well, very unfortunate flashback, because when he rode his wildcard here just last weekend, he crashed out at turn 1 on lap 1. So obviously having a few problems there with the starts of races, maybe just getting a little bit overexcited. And here we have race direction.
Yes, race obviously red flag, pit lane open at 11:15. That's local time here, so just in about a minute and a half actually.
Yep, and a 9-lap race, to follow.
Yep, so 9-lap race, a much shortened distance.
Yes.
So very much, people are going to have to get down to business pretty much straight away.
They are, but I'm sure team managers and parents, advisors, anyone down there is going to be saying, look at what happened early on.
Yeah.
Try and take it just a little bit. Bring your tyres up to temperature. I mean, Steve, you know this far better than I do. You yourself used to race. Just getting the temperature into the tyres is so important.
Yeah, but then getting that information across to some of the riders, and certainly when you consider their ages, sometimes as soon as that visor lid shuts, all of that goes out of the window. We did have an 18-lap race, and it looked like hell on earth on lap 1 as it was. So heavens knows what a 9-lap race will produce here. But what it does mean, of course, is in terms of tyres, they might not have to worry about that quite so much. Yep. Certainly in terms of lasting race distance, and
lighter fuel load, so they're not going to have quite as much weight on the front. So
exactly,
sort of more of a qualifying session with with a race, with a race thrown in at the same time.
With situations like this, you often see in all forms of motorcycle racing as well. This will have the ears pricked up of a few riders that are a bit further back that have absolutely nothing to lose. This is a 9-lap race. I can charge from the front. There'll be other riders that will be like, oh, hang on a second. Of course, there are some riders here that are using this weekend as a test. They'd rather keep themselves out of trouble. So there's lots of permutations going on all the way across the grid here.
Yep.
Either way, Fabio Quartararo, the Frenchman who moves into GPs, will be certainly looking for a better start this time than he managed earlier on.
Yep, and it's now 11:15, so we just hear pit lane will be open. For me, the man to look out for is going to be Masbou, because we saw that within 3 laps he'd already gone from the 4th row of the grid and was running in second place and challenging.
Yes, Alexis Masbou from Albi on the Saxo Print machine for the first time, taking that over from Efren Vasquez in the MotoGP Championship. Next year, I believe, it must surely be his final opportunity to race in the Moto3 category. Because
from a pure age point of view, because 28 years old is the age limit. It doesn't matter if you turn 29 during, but essentially because he is still 28 now at what is classed as the start of the season. The start of the season is no longer when you turn up in Qatar for the World Championship. It's essentially once the Valencia MotoGP race ends, then you finish 2014 season and you're into 2015. So yes, this will be his last year racing in Moto3. So we'll obviously want to do a little bit of advertising for Moto2 next year, if that's his goal, of course.
And what this championship does prove to those of you watching is that this championship is absolutely perfect in terms of developing riders ready for a GP career.
Well, look, Alexis Masbou is a GP winner. He is a GP winner from this year. He won the race in Brno. So not just, it's not just them showing what they can do, but it's really them showing just how high the caliber is of the front runners in this Spanish CEV class. Because if they can keep up or beat a World Championship Moto3 race winner, that's the advert. There you have it. This guy could potentially win in the World Championship, and it does show just how high level this class really is.
And in terms of the tyres, same tyres in this Moto3 category as in the GP?
Yes, so they can obviously make a slightly easier switch because there's no differential there. The bikes can sometimes vary a little bit because you've got more room for development here. So if they do vary, it's generally on a positive side. We will talk about Moto2 riders stepping up from here to MotoGP later on in the Moto2 race, because that's not quite as clean cut. But I think Moto3, we are seeing some very successful steps, and a big part of that is that same tyre.
And not just that, but there are also a lot of teams that are currently in GP that have teams within the CEV paddock.
Yes. I mean, for them, it's just the ideal. It's the ideal feeding system, because what do you want? You want to encourage some wildcard performances with the machinery being so equal, with the tyres being the same. Wildcard appearances are something that they can do, at a relatively low cost. If you're already paying for the Spanish Championship, to then pay for one extra bike to go with your World Championship team, even to a Spanish GP round, is not going to cost that much money, but it's going to give such great experience. Because I don't want to say that the riders need to get knocked down a peg, but I think you can do very well here. Go into the World Championship paddock and then be surprised, because there you have 33 riders that are at this level, not just 5 or 6.
And in terms of, we can see at the front end, in terms of the bikes being competitive, how competitive are the bikes in this championship compared to those that they'll perhaps be jumping on in Moto3?
Sometimes more competitive. When we look at the factory supported teams here, for instance, the junior team Estrella Galicia, Honda, because the rules are more open in the CEV FIM Repsol, Honda can actually develop parts, can actually test parts in this championship before then trying to bring them up into the World Championship. So some have often argued that Quartararo has a slightly better bike than the current world champion Alex Marquez.
Either way, folks, you're going to want to keep an eye on number 20, Fabio Quartararo, in the Moto3 Championship next year. I'm certainly very interested to see how he gets on. Here is his teammate for next season and for this weekend as well. Number 9 there, Jorge Navarro, who looked incredibly frustrated that the red flag came out purely on the basis that he'd built quite a lead. Of course, he understands the situation. Good news there for Albert Arenas. He's managed to get himself back out again.
No, fantastic news, and you do hope now that he's had 2 race start crashes here in Valencia, that he is just going to take it maybe that tiny little bit more easy. But here we have the champion of this year, Fabio Quartararo. High expectations on his shoulders, though low pressure for him. He's got the championship. He's got it sealed up. I think the next time he's going to feel pressure is maybe going to be in Qatar next year. But even then, he will be the rookie. And, you know, are people going to expect too much from him in the World Championship?
I think they probably will, but rightly so. I mean, you look at his records and they speak wonders. 15 years old, double champion here in CEV Moto3. If you look before that, from the age of 10, he's now won 5 national championships.
Yeah, incredible.
You know, he's won the last 3 races of this CEV championship. Last year, of course, he won it by a single point. He was a double winner here in Valencia last year. So everything is kind of stirring up towards that. And of course, I think there will be people that will be expecting him to probably even knock on the door of the top 5 of Moto3 overall next year.
Kind of a Maverick Vinales, Romano Fenati rookie year situation.
Exactly.
But one person who's not necessarily had those kinds of wins, John McPhee, we just saw him on the grid. He will certainly be looking to get a podium here. He's just missed out in the World Championship. But move on. This was Albert Arenas. We were just talking about him, the number 11 bike there. So, as you say, Steve, good to see that no harm was done. It was in turn number 3 where he crashed. So it had nothing to do with the cold tyre on the right. But of course, they're just starting from the grid, so they're not going to be completely up to temperature.
No, the good news is he got 2 corners further than he did here just last week.
Very true. So keep an eye out for turn 5. No, sorry, that's a bad joke. No, but he should know. You know, let's really hope that he's learned from it, that he stays safe this time out, and that he has a good race, because he put in some fantastic free practice sessions when he did his wildcard in the World Championship. It was really up there. Had some excellent pace.
We just saw there a glimpse of number 24, who fell also in part 1 of that race, so he'll be feeling quite lucky that he's got another shot. Marcos Ramirez, 5th overall in the championship. He got a 3rd place best finish in Portimao last time out. He lost the He was the one rider that lost the championship by a point to Fabio Quartararo in the CEV championships last year, so he'll be quite bitter about that. But he's had a successful year in the Red Bull rookies this year, 5 podiums, 5th overall, so he still has a bright future.
Yeah, but I think many people would have expected him to be challenging for that title again. But you never know what it does, losing a championship by a point. What is that going to do to you? And there we just saw someone with a rather famous brother.
Yes, Luca Marini there, the 17-year-old on the VR46 Kalex there. That must be incredibly tough for him in many ways. Of course, I mean, he's quite a talented rider himself, but I wonder how many times he's been asked about whether or not he's got it all to take on his brother or follow in his brother's footsteps.
No, definitely, it must be so difficult. But look, I say look at the Marquez family. Look at the Marquez family. It does work. Even if you've got the pressure from older brother, it can work. And there we just saw it was Senna Yamada with the CIP team, and he was the Japanese Moto3 champion, and he's actually going to be going up to the CIP next year in the Moto3 World Championship. And the number 46, we came from the brother of number 46 to the actual number 46 on the grid.
Yes, Nicolo Balega there, the 15-year-old on the Team BLD KTM. He's 8th overall in the championship. Best result so far this season, a 2nd place in Portimao last round. He also got a 3rd place in Navarra. So certainly having an Indian summer, if you like, in terms of a championship.
Certainly, I think many people have said that part of that VR46 Riders Academy, we have quite a few riders from that on this grid, that he has really proven himself to be one of the more talented bunch. And I think people obviously, like you say, lots and lots of expectation on Luca Marini purely because he's got that relation there, but it's been Bulega who's really made that number 46 his own. And yeah, like you say, you come into these championships, you can't expect everyone to be fast from the off, but he's shown that he's been progressing in the right direction, and I'm sure lots and lots of team managers will be looking out for that in the future.
Do you believe that there's this expectation that has risen since Marc Marquez, based on the fact that he is so young, he's won what he has won in that time? Do you think there's almost even more pressure now?
I think there is. I think there is, but many team managers will be saying, do not look at what Marquez is doing. And here we have the starting grid once more. We have Gabriel Rodrigo on pole position, Jorge Navarro in second place, and the champion himself, Fabio Quartararo, in third. On the second row, John McPhee down from the World Championship as a wild card. Albert Arenas had a small crash in the first race, and Marcos Ramirez rounding out row number 2.
Yep, further back there on row 4, Ben Snyder, the Dutch rider, and then Alex Masbou. Keep an eye out for him, of course, a wondrous start earlier on. Maria Herrera, didn't see much of her in that first part. She'll be looking to get herself up in the sharp end. And then Jasper Iverma, plenty of GP experience, looking to end the year on a high. Tony Arbolino, of course, the Moto3 champion of Italy.
Yep, and we have Remy Gardner, the son of Wayne Gardner, starting row number 7. He will also be looking for a good start. Next to him, Seiss and Pizzoli. And Geithner, the German rider. Rosli, Malaysian entrance, one of the few on the grid in the middle of row number 8. And at the end of row 9, we have 2 Brits there with Bradley Ray in the middle.
Yes, so we got Cresson there and Yamada, the double Japanese Moto3 champion Malaysian rider. And Noradin there, then Max Enderlein on row 11, the German rider. Further back, Groppi, who's teammates this weekend to Tony Arbolino.
And then towards the end of the grid, Max Kapler starts row number 13. We have Dutchman Van Leuven right next to him. Looking further back, we have Rofa, the Malaysian, and final person on the grid rounding it out.
So riders there lining up on the grid, getting themselves ready. The marshals also in preparation as well, but it is number 19, Gabriel Rodrigo, that will start from pole position ahead of the earlier race leader, Jorge Navarro. Forget what you saw in that. It's not a 2-part race. It's a fresh restart.
Yes,
9-lap race as well. 9-lap dash, should we say.
Yeah, 9-lap dash. Absolutely correct. They're not going to be thinking about tyre wear. They're not going to be thinking about anything. This is just going to be an out-and-out shootout. There's going to be no race management whatsoever. They know that they're going to be going through that turn 1 only 9 times. Like we said before, it would just be nice if they can just keep their head, keep it going, make sure their tyres are up to a temperature so we don't see the repeats from the first one, because they're, you know, we do often see this in races that there's a bit of a early attrition, but I think people were just that little bit too enthusiastic for this race, because there were lots of fallers.
Well, you see the people that were too enthusiastic have learnt from that already, and they'll probably have a different approach to this second start. People like Fabio Quartararo, who didn't get off well, will see this as a major opportunity. Navarro, as we mentioned, will be frustrated, but this is part of motorcycle racing. This is something that you have to get used to, because as you move on into a GP career, this is the sort of eventuality that can happen more than often.
No, exactly. It was Rodrigo, didn't necessarily get the best of starts, but actually, if you looked at Navarro in the first start, almost pulled a bit of a wheelie off the line, but it didn't seem to affect him too much. It's more that turn 4. Try and get cleanly around turn number 4. Make sure your tyres warm, especially on that right-hand side. Like we say, the right-hand side is going to be cold.
Something else as well to think about, Dylan, is the fact that if a rider had picked a certain setting to go out in the race with and they weren't particularly happy with it in the first 2 or 3 laps, they can of course change that. They can go back, they can report to the team and say, do you know what, we've gone the wrong direction here. We have got different weather conditions here considerably compared to what we had yesterday.
Very true, actually, and just, you know, thinking about one of the settings, maybe they're going to be running a lighter fuel load. They're going to be running about half the fuel load, because we have exactly half that number of race. So you're going to have slightly less weight on the front, so you might not need to run, say, quite as much preload as you normally would. Maybe not quite as much damping. Maybe you can just soften it ever so slightly, get a tiny little bit more feel round the corners, because you're not having to compensate for that extra weight.
The warm-up lap is coming up. Pole position for number 19, Gabriel Rodrigo, followed by number 9, Jorge Navarro, his teammate then and champion on the right of your screen there. Number 20, Fabio Quartararo, then on row 2. Number 68 for John McPhee, who will be one of those riders that will be very pleased that he's got another crack at the whip here, because he ran wide on the exit of turn 1 on lap 2 and fell way down the pack. So a good opportunity again here for the Scotsman. I
mean, it's such a fast pack. You know, no one should make any kind of mistake that this is a slower championship than in the World Championship. You just have fewer people in the fast group. That's the only difference. These guys, they have got World Championship pace, and John McPhee is going to be very, very aware of that, and any mistake, you will be punished. The person who's not made mistakes, Quartararo, that's why he's won. absolute precision riding. He sometimes reminds me a bit of when Jorge Lorenzo's had a good race and just, you know, run away with it, and he just connects the dots for as many laps as he needs to, just running away, putting in consistently fast laps.
You can just see there on the exit of pit lane, there are 3 bright bikes there from teams that perhaps had riders down in that first part. They have been rushing, trying to get the machines ready. Luckily enough, and good news, they're going to get themselves out there.
It's the mechanics from those teams that deserve to be on the podium if they do something good. I mean, you know just how fast these guys need to work, and it's not just the speed, but these are very finely tuned machines. You know, you need to put them together so well, because, you know, if you don't put it together well, you're putting your riders and the other riders' safety in danger. You know, obviously very well trained guys, so you always admire when they put bikes together so quickly.
Here we go then, riders making their way around this circuit. Notoriously difficult to overtake in certain sections of the middle part of this circuit from turn 2 onwards. You really have to be quite careful with the front end, and because there are a lot of double apex, I mean, I was referring to a couple of the corners yesterday when we were chatting as 50 pence corners, and what I mean by that is you don't have that many direct 90-degree left-handers, 90-degree right-handers hairpins. You have these corners that have these double apexes, which make it very difficult to overtake, because guess what, there's a bike right in your way in front of you, so you have to be absolutely precise to get yourself successful in a race like this.
And we're actually just looking at one here, coming round turn 9, going into turn 10. Obviously they're going around much slower now, so it looks like there should be space to go past, but of course there hardly will be, and as they're now just coming round turn number 11, they'll be heading down into turn 12. Turn 12 is where we saw one of the bigger of the crashes in the preceding race that was red flagged. Hope to not see any kind of repeat of that. And here, coming up and round turn number 39, for me, one of the most spectacular corners on the GP calendar.
Oh, 100%, there's no doubt about that. Of course, that is the highest point of the circuit there that you're looking at. It then goes all the way downhill into the actual finale of turn 13, which is slightly off camber, can catch a few people out, but it's imperative that you get the right line through there. You get the right line, you've got a chance to either drag a rider to the line to win the race or potentially overtake them into turn 1. However, you leave the door open for too long, and guess what? Someone will nip up the inside of you.
Yeah, no, you just want to cut people's momentum there. But again, let's just hope these guys have watched a lot of videos about how to take that final turn.
I'm sure they have. They only had to cast their memories back to last week, of course, the final round of the MotoGP Championship. But this is it, the CEV Repsol Championship, race 1. For these riders.
Gino Rea watching on from the MotoGP Moto2 World Championship.
Yeah, he'll be hoping that he gets himself fixed ready for next season and fully fit. Here we go then, a 9-lap Moto3 race coming up. And on pole position there, number 19, Gabriel Rodrigo. Then the 2 Australia Galicia machines. A good start there from Fabio Quartararo this time, much better than his teammate as they head now down towards turn 1. Rodrigo at the moment weaving, trying to push away Quartararo, but I don't think it's going to work out. Quartararo it is that gets the whole shot down into turn 1 ahead of Gabriel Rodrigo. It looks like Navarro is up into 3rd place though, Dylan.
Yeah, Rodrigo bit swallowed up there at the start. An absolutely fantastic fight back there from Rodrigo, and we already have a faller.
Further back there, I'm not quite sure who that is at the moment. Let's have a look at which machine that is, but it was certainly up inside.
That's a CIP. That looks like Senna Yamada.
Yep, Senna Yamada, who is the double Japanese Moto3 champion from 2013 and 2014. Looks like he may have fallen here. A 9-lap race, but at the moment it is number 20. You're looking at the champion, a number 20, Fabio Quartararo, but he's now being overtaken by his teammate. Good move that, perfectly executed.
Absolutely fantastic, and we were just talking about that corner. It takes such skill. You're coming round there so fast. You've almost got to brake whilst you're leant over, and this is the part which is so hard to overtake on, going down into turn number 11.
Yeah, turn 11. It's Gabriel Rodrigo that's just behind the 2 teammates there, the young man that was on pole position. And the top 3 here already trying to bridge a gap back to the rest of the field. Yeah,
exactly. They've seen the kind of pace that Jorge Navarro can run with, and they want to make sure that they stick with him. He's going to want to get that toe, and it's only 9 laps. We know there's no kind of tactic here. You don't just want to be sat behind someone for a long part of the race.
out of turn 13 and onto the start-finish straight. The leader is Jorge Navarro, number 9, but now in the slipstream, the champion, the Frenchman, it is Fabio Quartararo, and then in third place there is Gabriel Rodrigo. Further back, a nice battle developing between the riders in 4th, 5th and 6th.
Well, yeah, got the Calvo bikes there. We have the Italian Bollega with his teammate Arenas behind him. John McPhee down in 6th place, and we just saw someone run wide there. Could not quite see who that was, but John McPhee down in 6th will certainly be looking to get further up. Alexis Masbou crossed the line in 9th place, not the start that the Frenchman had last time out.
No, and 9th place is a long way back at the moment in this race. Quartararo it is that has capitalised on the slipstream down the start-finish straight, and he has the lead. It is now imperative for the riders in 2nd and 3rd place, Navarro and Rodrigo, to not let him out of their sights, because we've seen so often this year he's just checked out of this race.
Essentially, Quartararo has just said in his head, right, I'm going to take out the first half of the race where I might be stalking people, and I can just go for my full race rhythm from the start. And here we see that was Luca Marini, Valentino Rossi's half-brother, just trying to get back up the inside of what looks like the bike of, was that Albert Arenas there?
Yeah, Arenas
yes.
is well up there. You've got Ramirez not far away, so they're all having a decent dice just inside the top 10. Jasper Ivermer, in fact, is in 10th place at the moment, the Dutchman.
Yeah, Maria Herrera down in 11th. That's not the kind of start she would have been looking for. Looking at that race when she had in the first round in Jerez, things have certainly gone back a tiny little bit since then. And here we have Alexis Masbou up the inside of Albert Arenas, as that is into the final turn, just going on to the home straight. Yes, it is.
It is, yes. So Quartararo it is that leads from Navarro. Navarro getting tucked up in the slipstream. It is then teammates in 4th and 5th there. John McPhee, number 68, and then number 48, Alexis Masbou.
Yeah, that really is a World Championship fight back now. They must have got the pit board and said, look, boys, you've got to be fighting it up. We know Navarro is now a World Championship ride, but it's Quartararo, teammates with Gabriel Rodrigo. I think he's also doing fantastic. And I think Albert Arenas, I think we were a bit harsh with him earlier on. He must have been listening to our commentary about his crashes in the early part of the race, because this is an absolutely fantastic fight back from the Spaniard.
It is, and this will be a great confidence booster for him as well. He'll be fully in the zone now with this race. At the front, though, it is number 20, Quartararo, the champion, up ahead there of Jorge Navarro. These two teammates in the Moto3 World Championship next year. There is McPhee, number 68, the Scotsman, of course, still backed by the Racing Steps Foundation. And then it's Masbou. These guys have got to work together to try and catch up to the leading group.
They do. They just have such high pace, but you can tell Masbou, to me, at the moment, it looks like he's got a little bit of extra in the tank. He's an absolute scrapper. That's maybe something which John McPhee doesn't quite have so much. If you were McPhee, you're only 3 laps in, you may as well give Masbou a bit of a chance. See, look, can this guy pull me on a tad faster? Because the gap, if we look back at the gap, they are running very, very similar lap times.
Oh, that was very tight indeed as they go up and around into turn 13. Alexis Masbou there tried the move on his teammate, and here it comes now into turn 13. Masbou surely will take the advantage ahead of his teammate, and does so.
That was absolutely fantastic. We sometimes see guys out-braking themselves, going too wide in that corner and losing momentum, but Masbou got the braking. He timed that to perfection, and also good from McPhee. He didn't try anything silly. He realised, okay, he's got me under the brakes. Let's try and get him back. And Albert Arenas must be learning so much just being sat behind those two World Championship guys. And here we see the junior team Estrella Galicia boys are starting to pull a bit of a gap on Gabriel Rodrigo.
Yeah, there's a reason why these two are 1st and 2nd overall in the championship. They have been the class of the field throughout 2014. The champion, number 20 there, Frenchman Fabio Quartararo, and then his title rival and teammates Jorge Navarro there in the junior team Estrella Galicia. Rodrigo doing well, actually, keeping them honest in 3rd place, just about hanging on.
Yeah, like you say, just about hanging on, but you'd imagine that he would have to pull back pretty quickly, because we only have 4.5 laps remaining of this race, and it really looks like the Estrella Galicia boys mean business. We know that they have absolutely fantastic Honda machinery, but for me, what's impressing me most is this is the first weekend that Jorge Navarro is on that Honda bike. He started this championship on an Iota, then he raced in the World Championship on a Calix KTM. This is his first weekend on a Honda, so to adapt so quickly to that bike, Emilio Alzamora, the team boss, the Mondial boss is certainly going to be paying close attention to that.
I think so, and for him almost, he's slightly in the shadows of Fabio Quartararo's sort of dominance in the championship also.
Well, if you think Quartararo has just been here in the championship, he has not done a World Championship wildcard because he's been too young. Navarro, since Aragon this year, has been racing in the World Championship, and Navarro actually missed the last Portimao round because he couldn't get back in time himself or the bike from the Malaysian race. So, you know, the championship may not have been decided here, but look, you know, he said, I've got the ride, I've got the team, let's not try and fight that out. And we're now really seeing three groups separated. We have Quartararo, Navarro, and then we have just about a second behind him Gabriel Rodrigo. He looks like he's now dropped off the pace, and right behind them we still have the trio of McPhee, Masbu, and I think the spectacular Albert Arenas.
Yes, we've also got there Marcos Ramirez, who was just on their tail a little while ago. He's just fallen back, but it looks like these two guys are now going to be fighting it out for the overall race win. They'll both want it, despite the fact that they are teammates, of course, first and second in the championship. I very much doubt there'll be any team orders other than try not to wipe each other out.
Try not to wipe each other out, exactly. I think that's the key. But both riders, just from seeing how they ride, what they're like around the paddock, look to have a pretty, you know, look to be relatively level-headed. Not one of them comes across as a hothead, and I think, you know, especially with Navarro's experience in the World Championship, he probably is going to be stalking, because we know in the Moto3 World Championship races are decided on the last lap.
Certainly, yes, and we have another 18-lap race coming up for the Moto3 boys and girls a little later on, but it looks like it's going to be between these two for the win. In third place, Gabriel Rodrigo having a lonely race. It doesn't look like Grand Prix teammates John McPhee and Alex Masbu are actually going to be able to move any further up than they are now.
Well, look, these guys are running in the 139s, late 139s, whereas the following guys are actually in the late 140s, so they have almost a second pace on everyone else. I mean, that is quite frightening.
Here we go down into turn one. Jorge Navarro pulls out of the slipstream, but he's not able to outbrake his French teammate into turn one. They'll then shoot up towards turn two, which is in fact a lot tighter than it looks on your TV screens. It's an excellent overtaking opportunity, and then past here you really have to work very, very hard. It's now 5 as we go into turn 3, 5 consecutive left-handers. Now, before you tip into this right-hander, how many riders did we see falling here yesterday?
Loads. And you just saw how tight they went into that turn, because if you do run slightly wide, as we say, it almost drops off down a little bit of a cliff, so you have to be so careful. And you know, some of the riders, they were telling us you need 2 or 3 laps just to get the tyres up to temperature before you can really push through that turn. But these guys, they're absolute pros, and now just got the gaps there. So Rodrigo now dropped about 1.8 seconds behind the leading two, but that's understandable with the pace they are running. Looks like Masbu in 5th, Albert Arenas getting past John McPhee.
Yes, John McPhee did say to us this morning that this is effectively a test this weekend, but they don't want to be left red-faced, so they would certainly want to finish up as high as possible, but I'm sure McPhee will look to try and put that right ready for the next one. Got yellow flags just in the background there, someone further back. You can see the race leaders here on lap 6 of 9. We're coming towards the end of this one, so just a few left now for your race leaders and teammates. Fabio Quartararo, number 20, has been leading this race for some time now. This is where Jorge Navarro has to get tucked up right behind his teammate and use all of the slipstream as possible.
Yeah, you've got to think which passing opportunities have you got. You can try turn 1, but turn 2 seems to be the actual favoured place of people getting past. Maybe down into turn 8, and like you say,
here we
13, and he's done it into turn 1.
Yep, he's pulled the pin, and that is the decent move there. Is he going to run slightly wide and allow Quartararo back up the inside?
Quartararo's got the momentum. He's going to straight back.
Yeah, good move then from Fabio Quartararo, and they both run slightly wide, but Quartararo used the advantage there of Navarro going wide. You know, you can actually stay in the slipstream for too long and lose your benefit out of that bubble, and that's happened to Navarro a couple of times. He managed to get it right this time. It'd be interesting to see. Of course, on the final lap, it's all about trying to get the drag to the finish line, which is a lot further up the start-finish straight.
Yes, yeah, no, exactly, and these guys, I'm sure in practice, would have been testing whether they can actually pass the bike before the finish line or not. But I always find it fascinating, these cat and mouse games. 3 laps before the end, start passing, see where can they fight back, where would I end up, because you might actually want to yield in one place just to make up time in others, and it looks like here like a small mistake from Navarro.
Yes, Navarro there just went really wide, and he's just allowed Quartararo a few tenths. You'll see here is the replay. He's just missed a gear or something there.
Well, almost looks like he outbraked himself.
Yeah. Well, either way, that's a crucial amount of time that he may have lost to his teammate Quartararo. He might struggle to find that back again. Here is your race leader coming around turn 13 now and into the last turn.
Unless Quartararo sets a foot wrong, I think it's going to be very, very tough for Navarro. If you look at the pace these guys are running, they've now dropped into the low 140s, but they are still, look, they're still 9 tenths faster than Rodrigo. Alexis Masbou now upping the pace. Albert Arenas and John McPhee, they are now up there with the times of Quartararo and Navarro, but it's those early 139s that have just helped these guys lead.
Yes, and speaking of Alexis Masbou there in 4th place, but this is his first weekend. I know it's not too dissimilar from the bike that he's raced all season in Moto3 World Championship. This is still a decent effort here.
Oh, it's still a decent effort, but there'll be many people pointing at Navarro saying he's never been on a Honda.
Yeah.
Whereas Alexis Masbou will have changed from a Honda onto what's probably slightly more of an official Honda. But then again, we never know.
Oh, Navarro's gone down. He's been trying to chase and catch up to Quartararo so that he had possibly a chance on the final lap. And just as we were talking him up, the commentator's curse strikes. He's lost the front end, Navarro, and that was all really that stemmed from that earlier mistake. He's been pushing the front end there, slightly offline.
Into turn 5. Second right-hander, we said. Be careful in turn 4. Obviously, turn 5, you're not much higher up to temperature on that right-hand side. So now we have Quartararo. This is really now his to lose.
Well, this is just really the familiar story that we've seen throughout 2014 in the FIM CEV Repsol Championships, not just for this year, but also for last year. He really is a rider with a very wise head on some young shoulders there as well.
Yes, I think that is something team managers look for a lot these days. I don't think they just look for outright speed. They say, right, who's fast, but who can I make fast? And if you've got a brain like a sponge, I always think, look at the likes of Marquez, speaks four languages, never makes the same mistake twice. I think that, this is the current generation race, motorcycle racers. You've got to be highly intelligent as well as quick.
We start the last lap. It looks like Quartararo's to lose in terms of second place, in terms of first place, and that was very close. This is the battle for second.
Yeah,
it's
Rodrigo's
Masbou.
dropped back. They've caught up with Rodrigo, and there's John McPhee tried a bit of a brave move. Rodrigo
really wide from Arenas there. Albert Arenas, number 11. He manages to hold on.
John McPhee capitalising on that situation, also managed to get back past Arenas, but it looks like
Arenas slammed it straight back up the inside of John McPhee there into turn 4. That's big and brave.
Welcome to the CEV.
Oh, very well. This is Quartararo. He leads on this final lap. Second place for Masbou so far, the Frenchman. Then it's Rodrigo, who was on pole position, who's been caught by this bunch. Then Arenas and McPhee. Of course, Arenas and McPhee will both be thinking at the moment, we've got a shot at a podium here.
Well, exactly. Their pit boards would have said to them, Navarro out, you've got a chance.
McPhee from 5th place. He's having a look up the inside. Oh, and he's taken out Rodrigo there. And it was a really tight entry. He had no more room. He left it really late to brake, and he's wiped out Rodrigo. Here you can see he had nowhere else left to go. It was an ambitious move, but unfortunately there, McPhee has wiped out Rodrigo, and it looks like our podium's already sorted.
Yeah, he was on the brakes and got onto the curb. Obviously lost a lot of grip on that part of the track. He was forced onto the curb. I think he's going to regret that mistake. He's going to regret that mistake, unfortunately.
Either way, we can't take anything away from this man, or this young man, Fabio Quartararo. Such experience already at a young age. And this here in race 1 in Moto3 for the FIM CEV Repsol, it's another win. It's his 4th consecutive victory.
And eighth of the season.
Unbelievable. Second place there for number 48, Alexis Masbou, and he looks pretty happy with that. In third was Albert Arenas, which is an excellent recovery after what happened earlier. Nico Balega takes 4th place ahead of Maria Herrera, and then it's Jasper Ivema up into 6th ahead of Australian Remy Gardner. Marini then crosses the line in 8th ahead of Marcos Ramirez, who really fell back, and then Kurumine in 10th place and Sanchez 11th. But what drama on the final lap.
I know, and this is Albert Arenas' first podium, and I think considering what happened in his wildcard ride, in race 1 here, before the restart, he fell. I mean, what a result for the young Spaniard.
Well, they'll be talking about that move there from McPhee a little later on. I can understand why he went for it there. He went to try and go up the inside of Rodrigo and
Arenas.
And Arenas, sorry,
Arenas,
yeah. And so you can understand why the move, but it just so tight through there, it was never going to really work.
You know, Maverick Vinales tried something similar in the Moto2 race here last weekend on Callio, and I think that's one of those corners where if you're going up the inside, unless you get it completely right, unfortunately it's always going to result in contact and in this case both fell, but it looked like both were absolutely okay, which is the good news.
That's the main thing, yes, both riders up and okay. There is Albert Arenas then, and as Dylan just pointed out, the Calvo rider will be delighted with that. Let's not forget, he fell in that first part of the first race, and now he's recovered well, and that's a sign of a good head there. He's learned some valuable lessons.
Yep, yeah, exactly. It's, you know, I think you said earlier on, some guys are going to capitalise on the fact that this was just a 9-lap race, that they can just really just race for that win. All they've got to think about is elbows out, who's going to win this one.
Fabio Quartararo then wins again. It's his 4th consecutive victory, the champion ahead of Alexis Masbou, the Frenchman, then Arenas Balega. Further back there, Maria Herrera, Jasper Iverma, Remy Gardner, Luca Marini and Marcos Ramirez. That's your top 9 in race 1.
10th place we had Takuma Kunimine, the Japanese rider, ahead of David Sanchez, Jonas Geithner, Aaron Canet, Bradley Ray in 15th place, Ramadan Rosli in 16th, Tony Arbolini, great race there, and 17th Aaron Polanco, and 18th Juan Belbert.
So drama here for the first Moto3 race, and down in Parc Fermé there is Fabio Quartararo. He certainly knows where Parc Fermé is.
Yeah. Probably doesn't know where his box is after a race. He has not finished. He has not finished off the podium, and every time he's been on the podium, he's either been 1st or 2nd place.
Well, let's not forget, if you carry that on from the 2013 season as well, he was a double winner in Valencia last year.
Right.
He also had a podium in the final round in Jerez, I believe. So he's carrying on this immense.
He's going to be knocking on Marc Marquez records, isn't he? I think, or Agostini. I can't quite remember.
Either way, the champion, the Frenchman, just relaying a bit of information back to the team there. Of course, they've got another race coming up later on, but they're delighted. Joining him in Parc Fermé, another Frenchman, yes. Alexis Masbou.
Yep, great. I think Alexis Masbou will be so pleased with that. You know, he needs to show that he is high caliber, and he also showed why he is a race winner. And here we are now with Fabio Quartararo just after the race.
Fabio Quartararo, félicitations, une nouvelle victoire dans une course très compliquée par la position de Navarro.
Ben voilà, ça a été vraiment compliqué, j'ai donné tout ce que j'avais. J'ai réussi à faire un très bon rythme, ma course est restée devant tout au long de toute cette course. Et j'ai fait un très bon rythme, et Navarro m'a passé vers la fin, j'ai réussi à le repasser. J'ai dit là, il faut que j'arrive vraiment à faire le trou. Et voilà, je suis vraiment content, j'aimerais remercier mon équipe. Et surtout Honda qui ont fait un très grand travail. Bueno, he hecho una carrera muy buena. Lo sabía que era muy complicado. Yo quería tirar a tope desde el principio, pero bueno, he visto que Navarro me había pasado en las 3 últimas vueltas y he dicho ahora tengo que pasarlo y tirar muy fuerte. Y he visto en la pizarra más 3 segundos y he dicho uff, y quedaba una vuelta y he dicho voy a ir más tranquilo y estoy muy contento. Quiero dar muchas gracias al equipo y sobre todo a Honda y a mi familia.
Gracias, Stor.
So then, these are the highlights of that race. Of course, earlier on we saw Navarro there, lining up on the grid with his teammate Fabio Quartararo. For those of you wanting translation, by the way, of that interview, Dylan will be giving you that in just a few moments, so don't panic, folks. But this is the highlights here of that first race as the guys went down into turn 1. You could see there John McPhee almost going onto the grass, but it was quite a high rate of attrition. That was Albert Arenas. He only managed to make it on the exit of turn 2, in fact. There's a number of riders that went down on this opening lap, and then a massive high side. And then it was only a couple of laps later before the race was